Peterborough Patriots versus the Charlestown Chiefs. Brought to you by Sheehan's Rustproofing. The Chiefs have just come out on the ice for a warm-up period. They're about to try for their 5th consecutive win. They're getting a good round of applause from their own booster club, who have traveled all the way from Charlestown to be here in Peterborough tonight.
If you're looking to buy or sell a home, make your next move a power play with Mike Burgoyne of Real Brokerage Realty. First responders, veterans, doctors, nurses, teachers, and yes, Let's Go Blues Radio listeners get special rates. Visit strikewithmike.com or email him at mike@strikewithmike.com and score big today.
Have you subscribed to the LGB Minute podcast yet? It's a 5-minute weekly St. Louis Blues podcast hosted by Jeff Ponder that is released multiple times a week to fill the gap between Let's Go Blues Radio episodes. Subscribe today.
So awesome, so handsome, so smart, you'll agree. Kurt, Jeff, and Bill are on TV. It's radio on TV. Oh yeah, it's radio on TV.
From St. Louis, I am Jeff Ponder, and I am joined by Mr. Bill Day. That doesn't rhyme, but I don't care. Kurt Price is still facing allegations. We're bringing you the often imitated, never duplicated. You will bring us another shrubbery. The original St. Louis Blues hockey podcast, Let's Go Blues Radio. This is the 29th episode of season 15 and the 557th episode all time. It's Wednesday, April 22nd, and we're coming to you live. Tonight, we recap the 25-26 season for the St. Louis Blues, look forward to next season, and discuss some changes the Blues have already made heading into the summer. All that and more on this episode of Let's Go Blues Radio. Bill, 2 episodes left. Good Lord.
2 episodes left, and is this the first time we've did a Monty Python bit?
I don't want to say it's the first time. I think it's the first time we've used it in the open, which is kind of surprising.
Yeah, because trigger warning. It's one of those movies that I can quote front to back. Just give me 2 seconds into it, and I can quote the whole fucking thing.
That's what
I was the lonely dork in college that didn't have dates but could quote that movie.
I would have gone on dates with you, Bill, if you could quote that movie. So it's a shame we didn't go to college together. We would have discovered ourselves. Goodness. No, I'm the same way. It's funny because I released an episode today of my other podcast, The Podcast, Conversations That Go Nowhere. Subscribe, smash that subscribe button wherever you get podcasts. I remember the interview I did was with somebody over Christmas break, so it was a long time ago. But I remember we got into a Monty Python bit for a while because she said she'd only seen it once. And so I was like, oh, you want to hear the whole movie? I can quote the whole movie for you. So, yeah, it's for me, it's top of mind because I released that episode today. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do a double whammy, and we're gonna hear that on Let's Go Blues Radio too.
Nice. And yeah, I will have to try to check that out. It's probably tomorrow while I'm cutting the grass.
There you go. That's a good one. Yeah, she's very funny. I had my friend Tina on. She's done some amateur comedy stand-up, so she was very funny. I was
an
hilarious.
Awkward pause after the word amateur. I wasn't sure where you were going.
I will say, little teaser for you, I do have somebody who does porn coming up soon on the show. So that is also top of mind for me.
Well, it always is, right?
Yeah, yes. What do you think I do before the show? That's how I ramp myself up.
Yeah.
And then comment of the show in the chat. Not starting on time. Who are we? The St. Louis Blues? Ha ha. It's a knee slapper. He also says, Jeff discovering himself on the podcast Ponder. I discovered myself in college, young man. That's there's no question who I am. And Joe Schmo in the chat, that leaves one more chance to start on time. When will sign up for the Stanley Ponder Cup start? We will start that soon. We just wrapped up so we do 2 tournaments a year, similar to the Ponder Cup. One's in April, and we just wrapped that one up last weekend. So signups for that. Typically, I try to start it in like mid to late May, maybe even early June. But Joe, I think I have your number. I will make sure to text you if you want to come back out. It was fun having you last year. But yeah, looking forward to getting the Ponder Cup started. Actually, I say that. I'm going to be honest with you, Bill. I'm not. The pre-work is a lot. It's a lot of stuff to do. But what I always say is the day of, and it's not even the day of, because the morning of is very stressful because I have to get everything set up. I've only got a few select people that can come and help in the morning. But once the first puck drops, that is when it's worth it because I start to have fun. So yes, at the onset getting there, that is never fun for me.
Yeah, it's any charity thing where you're part of the setup crew. I feel like, that there's you're doing it because of the charitable nature, but there's just the human nature part of it, right? Is you just don't want to do that part. You want to snap your fingers, have it happen.
Yep.
But yeah, once you are able to get in and you have the extra, added thing of playing in your own tournament.
Yes.
And,
I will say there was a short period this time where I did actually run the one this year in April that we just did on Saturday. Typically, I just kind of help a little bit with that one, but just a lot of logistic problems with Jason, our friend who does it. He just could not. He just has too much going on. His kid, literally, she is so good at hockey, Bill. She had to join a Chicago women's team because there's no team here that was good enough for her. She was told that by coaches here in St. Louis, like, you're too good here. So if you have any chance of going pro, you need to join a team in Chicago. And so that's what she did. So literally, Jason is going to and from Chicago like 3 out of 4 weekends a year, which is 3 out of 4 weekends a month, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah, that's where you're considering uprooting the life and relocating there.
Yep.
But yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that was kind of, it's awesome to hear about women's hockey in St. Louis, because when I was in high school, that was, that kind of the thing. If you wanted to go pro, you got the hell out of St. Louis. So if we're at that point now, in a couple of years, they're not going to have to leave. It's just going to keep getting better and better.
That's what I said. Yeah, you look at the hockey growth here for men, it's growing just as rapidly for women, but the problem is that women are always going to be, sports wise is always going to be a little bit behind the men. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think 5-6 years, they probably wouldn't have that problem, but she's just in this weird in-between phase where it's like St. Louis isn't quite ready for elite women's talent.
Right. And, it could be her as part of that, her experiences coming back and, informing what needs to happen to make St. Louis that place.
That's true. Yep, I agree. But anyway, so I did run the one, and we actually normally don't do the April one for charity, but we decided to do it this year because a good friend of ours, his name's Marty Guatz, actually played for Team USA Roller multiple times. Went over to Italy a couple of years ago, played for them. But yeah, he unfortunately came down with leukemia, so we decided to turn this one into a charity one as well. Bill, I did figure out the numbers tonight. I don't want to announce it on the show because I'm yet to tell Marty what they are, but I am happy to say this was a record amount that we raised this year, and it's all going to Marty. He just had his bone marrow transplant on Friday, so I am very excited to be able to tell him that amount. And next week, if I remember, I'll mention it on the show. But Very exciting. And thank you if you're listening and you participated in the tournament at all, even just showed up and watched a game. Thank you very much. And yes, very exciting to be able to continue to see this tournament grow year over year.
Oh, it's awesome that you do that, and not just once a year, but twice. So
typically not twice. And I will say it is very few and far between. I will do this twice a year, but it, like I said, a lot of work that goes into it, but it's worth it when you see the fruits of your labor. And that's what I'll be seeing tomorrow when I'm able to tell Marty exactly how much we made for him. So very exciting. But Bill, let's get into some beers of the episode. Why not? Let's get right into that. Official Beers, sure. Episode number 557. You can follow each of us on the Untapped app. Bill is at Billy Bluno 33. I am at JPonder 94. Bill, I haven't gone first in a while. I'm going to go ahead and go first tonight.
You go right ahead and you do that.
I will. So you can see my beautiful, kind of like a pinkish yellow look. I've never had this before. I'm yet to take a drink, so I don't know if I'm going to like it or not. It's from our friends at Second Shift Brewing. It's Hibiscus Wit.
Nice.
And it is a Belgian-style wit beer brewed with spices. And here we go. There's a little description for you. Here's what I've been goofing around with for a while. I love Belgian wits on hot summer days or freezing your butt off days. Anyway, I took a wit beer and threw in a bunch of hibiscus flowers to make it even better. Tart and refreshing with a hit of fart. Literally says hit of fart. F-A-R-T. That can't be a typo, right? You would think
they're testing to see if anybody actually reads it.
Oh, I gotta ask them about that. That's crazy. That's from Steve. I guess that's their one of their flavor profile makers. But I will take a drink now, unless you know what I think, and see if I get that hit of fart with it.
Rob GLB 2244 2nd Street Smegma.
You know what? It does. It does kind of smell like a fart. So I think that's intentional. I mean, it's not a bad fart. It's like one of those, that you're passing through a crowd and you're like, ooh, okay. And then it's gone. That's kind of what this is. Interesting. Okay. Don't know why you'd want your beer to smell like that, but it doesn't taste bad. So that's a plus. Bill, you got any fart in your beer tonight?
I don't. Thankfully, I have enough fart that comes out of the backside of my dogs. So my beer is an ode to what I did this weekend, which was not charitable. Well, unless you're one of the record stores I went to, then it was very charitable. But I picked this up, Crooked Stave and Alma Mater Brewing collaboration, Crooked Stave of Colorado, vintage vinyl. So it's a West Coast IPA. This weekend was record store day, and I did not disappoint. Hit four shops and spent a lot of money picking up the goods. So every year, one of my favorite things that I do twice a year. They have one. I mean, I go to the record store all the time, not just these 2 days, but I'm always a patron for these days, which was initially to, boost sales at indie record shops. So they're back and booming at this point. So it's pretty good. But the beer is good. And it too has a description. It says, we set the needle back to the first groove on this collaboration with Alma Mater or Mater. It's spelled Mater, M-A-D-E-R. Not M-A-T-E-R. So I'm not local, so I apologize if I have mispronounced it. Where's Baked Beaver when you need him?
Yeah.
And our friend Nick, one of Crooked Stave's first employees, brewed with intention and shared history. This beer layers depth and character like a well-worn record you never stop going back to. So
interesting.
That's very good. So yeah, pretty cool can art. Couple of turntables and a microphone.
I was gonna say, would you say there's 2 turntables and a microphone?
Right here. So
there you go. Very nice. That's pretty cool. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see if Big Beaver shows up. See if that is how you pronounce it. Comment of the show says my beer of the show is Yummy by Slow Body Brewing here. Red ale, not too bad. Joe Schmo says hint of fart was my nickname in high school. Very nice. Comment of the show says Jeff Fart Appreciator Ponder. Apparently, I've got a lot of nicknames, Bill, and that was, I guess, is one of them. And Divide by Zero. Did anyone catch the Last Minute Blues podcast with Doug Armstrong today? I did not. We got a couple. We've got a couple friends of the show that do that one, and I did not catch it. Bill, did you catch the episode with Doug Armstrong today?
I did not. I am in postseason form already.
Yeah.
Just get me to the draft already. Come on.
Yep. I'm with you. And I'll say, and I think I've said this in the show before, and maybe that'll change this summer. We'll see. But I actually do not listen to other blues podcasts at all. And it's not like a supremacy thing, like, oh, we're the best, like nothing like that. I'm always afraid that I will steal their takes and not even realize it. So my goal is to do this show with a fresh mind and be able to speak my mind the way that because I know I'm not taking it from anyone else. So for me, that's why I don't do it. But I do know other people do listen that do podcasts, and I'm sure it works for them. But for me, that's just how I like to operate.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that at all. I would much rather be accused of stealing a take when I have the perfect alibi of I didn't hear your fucking take.
Yeah, right. Yep. Yeah, and for me, it's like, I can literally show you my phone and you will see that I have never, again, I've heard clips from that show. I've obviously listened to, some of, every now and then I'll listen to, Blues Hockey Podcast or our friends at Two Guys, One Cup, but like I've never listened to a full episode. And for me, it makes me feel better about doing this show. It's no knock on them. And I do appreciate people that listen to us that do other podcasts, but for me, that's just how my mind operates. And then Divide by Zero, giving us some backstory on the Doug Armstrong interview. I thought it was really good. He commented on some surprising things. I would highly recommend it. He acknowledged people like me who are disappointed in us not finishing with a top 5, and I wasn't disagreeable about it. I thought it was really good. And I'll say Divide by Zero. We do have some talk about those draft picks and all that, and Armstrong did mention it in his postseason presser. So we will be talking about that. He said a lot of things that I agreed with too. It sounds like you might too, about that whole thing. So we'll get to that here in a little bit. But Bill, blue season's over. They end with a record of 37, 33, and 12 with 86 points. That is 4 points out of the playoffs. They finished as the first team in the Western Conference to not make the playoffs, which is exactly what our friend Divide by Zero was worried about. And actually, I'll admit a lot of us were, that they're going to finish just good enough to be outside of the playoffs, but not bad enough to have a high-end pick. Obviously, things could change. There could be a crazy jump in the lottery, but yes, it does look like the Blues will be drafting around 11th, which is they finished 22nd in the NHL. So there's a good chance that we will not be seeing a high draft pick here from the Blues, at least one that they've earned and don't trade for. And I see people being upset about that. But at the same time, for me, I've always said, give me entertainment. That's what this is. And they were very entertaining at the end of the season. It sucks we could not see them do that all year, but they made it very entertaining at the end, and they were playing meaningful hockey until the final 2 games of the season. And that is something that I was hoping they would do at the start of the season. So didn't make the playoffs, but very, very close.
Yeah. I think we were all in our, predictions at the beginning. And again, I'm a great podcaster because I didn't go back and listen to my own prediction to say how bad I was, but any of us. But we were I think we were all pretty close, right? For me, this season, it felt like in the last few seasons where we're going to be on the, I think I said the Blues would make it, possibly take the third spot. And we were nowhere near the top three because it was so insane. But I think we finished higher than Dom's model, which makes me happy. Believe he had them at 83 points, and we slightly outperformed him.
Yes.
So that at the end of the day, that's going to be my takeaway. But what really excites me is how well this team played after they shed two veteran players, right? Because I hope this is a blueprint for the future. Not that I want to have a lineup of nothing but rookies, but I think I don't think that it was Braden Shen, and I don't think that it was Justin Falk that were holding the team back, but just the subtle shifts in the chemistry and creating more room for other voices that may have been getting drowned out by their veteran presences. This team clicked, and it was exciting to watch. Right. The fact that we went from like, okay, we're definitely a top 5 lock to holy shit, are they actually going to make a push? Was awesome to see.
No, I agree. And I mean, again, I know they didn't do it, but to have the opportunity to make the playoffs after the dismal start to the season was so exciting. And, I think we all said, and we kind of knew it, that at the Olympic break that, this team, it's too little too late. It's not going to work. Even if they go on a crazy run, which they did, I don't think we're going to see them make the playoffs. And obviously they didn't. But, it's like if they would have won that game against Colorado at the end, if they would have won that game against Winnipeg, they would have been right there. I just think they ran out of a little bit of gas there at the end. And we've already talked about it on this show many times, things that led to them finishing where they did. No, it was not those last two losses I just mentioned, but, things that happened throughout the season that if they would have, if things would have swung in the Blues' favor, this would have been a playoff team. And that's where we thought they'd be. And I'll say, like, again, I even said, I wouldn't be surprised at the start of the season. I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't make the playoffs, but I do expect them to be right there. Now, again, same thing I said last year. I did not expect them to get to where they were the way they did, but I did think that was right about where they would finish.
Yeah. I mean, finishing anywhere in the top 3 would have been a miracle. And Utah finally seems to have figured it out. And I think it really felt like it was going to be between the Blues and Utah for the longest time this season. That was definitely the case. The Predators were nowhere to be found. They were going to be closer to a lottery pick than we were. And they started figuring it out again. But yeah, I mean, I think they didn't deserve to make the playoffs because of October, because of the 2 blown 4-goal leads. You can't do that. You can't not start the season on time. Another big thing is we didn't have a 30-goal scorer on this team.
No.
Dallas had 2 40-goal scorers.
Yep.
Right? Nathan McKinnon's 51, 52. Yeah, he beat Caulfield by a goal. Kaprizov, right, over 40 goals. We didn't have that elite scoring, so there's no way we were going to challenge for the top 3. And when you have a guy like Jordan Kyrou who has a completely off year, right? He's been a 30-goal scorer, and in this year, he looked more like a third-line plug.
Yes,
and
he did.
You can't have that and be a playoff team.
Nope. So last thing we'll mention before we take our break, there is a 3.0% chance the Blues move up to number 1 in the lottery, 3.2% chance it moves to number 2, and a 0.1% chance it moves to number 3. Why is it so much harder to get to number 3? I don't really understand that, but whatever. This comes from our friend Jeremy Rutherford over at The Athletic. Actually, he says it comes from Tankathon, which is a site that helps you determine where teams slot.
It's Adam Gold's like alter ego website.
It's I would say Adam Silver, but that's already a person.
Right.
Dan AU, I guess we could say. Let's say that. AU, get it? That's stupid.
AU guys.
Let's see. There's also a chance it moves down 1 or 2 slots. The Blues also have what's currently the number 15 pick, which they got from the Detroit Red Wings in the Falk trade. There's a 1.1% chance that pick moves up to number 5 in the May draft lottery. So I think it was Joe Schmo in the chat. Yeah, he says we have a theoretical shot at number 1 and number 5. Could you imagine? That would be one for the ages if the Blues, with those percentages, somehow landed at 1 and 5 with those 2 picks. Again, makes Yzerman look even more foolish if that happens.
Yeah, you gotta wonder if there's not a complete burn it down in Detroit after their failure this year.
Winning Unlimited. Tankathon is on my Mount Rushmore of villains. Yep, I see that. Let's see. What is? Oh, he's talking about. You had me so confused, Winning Unlimited. He's in here talking about Seattle playing for the number 1 pick, and I'm like, Seattle's done, dude. But I'm like, oh, he's talking PWHL. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Okay, that took me a minute. I'm a little slow, Adam. You gotta use small words for me. But we do have plenty to talk about with the Blues, so we are going to break down this season. Bill and I have plenty that we want to say, I'm sure, about the way the Blues season ended and where they're going to go from here. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back, and you are listening to Let's Go Blues Radio.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
What are you doing? Have you not subscribed to the Let's Go Blues Minute yet? Do it wherever you get podcasts. It provides a daily look into the St. Louis Blues, filling the gap between Let's Go Blues radio shows. Go to Spotify, go to Apple Podcasts, go to Friendster. I don't care. Just subscribe and get fresh blues content daily. Do it. Like now.
Every hockey team needs that clutch player who knows when to pass, when to shoot, and when to take charge. In real estate, that superstar is Mike Burgoyne of Real Brokerage Realty. Whether you're buying your first home or selling your current one, Mike skates circles around the competition with his knowledge, hustle, and down-to-earth approach. And here's the real zone ability. If you're a first responder, veteran, doctor, nurse, teacher, or even just a loyal Let's Go Blues radio listener, you'll score special rates when you work with Mike. Got questions? Fire them at him. He'll answer quicker than Bill Day's glove hand. Obstacles in your way? He'll plow through them harder than I would in a goalmouth scramble. And when it comes time to close, he'll put it in the back of the net faster than a Kurt Price shot from the slot. So don't just settle for an ordinary realtor. Get the MVP on your side. Visit strikewithmike.com or email him at mike@strikewithmike.com today. Mike Burgoyne, the real estate teammate you can always count on. Let's get into our random topic. It's a topic generator. Well, we are not going to tease the generator. We're actually going to do it. Streaming fatigue, volcanoes, pyramid schemes, moving back in with your parents.
I have no idea.
But he spent like up to $5,000 for my bow tie.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, I could use that money.
So you need to realize that only the largest apartments in the country have their own SWAT teams, okay?
And it popped, and it hurt, man. I went down, and I didn't want to blow the tape.
There's some things I've decided I will not do anymore, okay? Riding a bike uphill, don't want to do that.
Ooh, yeah.
And now, back to Let's Go Blues Radio, the longest running St. Louis Blues podcast with Price, Ponder, and Day.
So that first commercial, do not subscribe to the Let's Go Blues Minute. That ended last week, and there will not be a season 3 as we move into our new hockey show that we'll be doing next season. So I just didn't feel like I just was like, people know not to subscribe now. I don't need to change anything. It's too much work. So yes, but thank you to everyone who listened to the Let's Go Blues Minute. I did really enjoy doing that show, and it was kind of something that I was just going to attempt and see how it went. And if it was like, well, at the end of season 1, I've got 5 listeners, probably not worth doing it. I saw the numbers. People were tuning in. So thank you, everyone. I know a lot of it was probably our listeners to this show. So thank you very much for tuning in. And it was a blast doing it. And thanks to the sponsors I had over 2 seasons, Puck Doku and Mid-States Hockey. But yes, we have officially set the sun on the Let's Go Blues Minute. But we still have more Let's Go Blues Radio, Bill. Plenty more to go.
Yeah, about, well, depending on how long we go next week, 5 hours.
Ooh, I hope it's not that long. That's a lot of show next week. All right, so let's get into our, I don't know if we'll do one next week or not, but might be our last Let's Go Blues Extra. This is what we're doing to close out the show. Something special that kind of helps us end Let's Go Blues Radio. This week, what did we get wrong? So obviously we've been on this show for 15 years. Is it what, 5? We're 557 in total episode numbers. There's plenty of things we got wrong. The first one that I will mention is in our first season. And Bill, you may disagree. I don't know. You'll probably agree that I got this wrong. When they fired Davis Payne, yes, when this show started, Davis Payne was the head coach of the St. Louis Blues, and they brought in Ken Hitchcock. I hated that move because I thought they did not give Davis Payne a fair shake. Those of you that I might remember, 2010, 2011, they were plagued by injuries. Andy McDonald, Alex Steen, David Backus, like every good player this team had went down with an injury. And that was the year Matt D'Agostini somehow lit the lamp, I think 21 times that season. And then they came back the next year, and they started off kind of how they did the year last year when they ousted Bannister. They were like 7-9, and then they hired Hitchcock. And I thought it wasn't so much more an indictment on Hitchcock. It was more, you're making a mistake because Davis Payne knows these guys. He's going to get blood out of the stone because he grew up with them. You know, he was the coach in, San Antonio at the time before here. So I thought he knows a lot of these guys. He's the right pick for the head coach. I did not like that hiring. Well, right after that, was it every season, right? Every season Ken Hitchcock was here. The Blues did make the playoffs. So I know you had your issues with Hitchcock, but clearly at the time that was probably the right hire, and I was incorrect.
Yeah, that's kind of one of my, if you could go back in time and stop it from happening things, it would be the hiring of Hitchcock. Now the guy, you're right. I was very critical of him, but you can't argue with him building the foundations of success, getting us past being able to beat the Blackhawks finally. But yeah, I remember the Davis Payne thing. And I think he had the unfortunate reality of just not being Ken Hitchcock. And that gave Doug Armstrong, who was just coming in, right, to that role as GM, right? That Davis Payne wasn't his guy. So yeah, he had a chance to bring in a guy that, he probably still was calling this year to get advice from. So
yes,
yeah,
probably.
But yeah,
Another one,
it's
Bill.
I was
Oh.
going to say real quick on that. Davis Payne has never gotten another head coaching job in the NHL. Best he's done is assistant coach.
Yep. Which honestly surprised me. I really thought he would at least get a chance. I need to look up what's Drew Bannister doing. I wonder if he picked up another AHL coach or something.
Yeah, I have not seen.
I'm gonna look that up. Yeah, Davis Payne, I know is. Let's see. I don't. He can't be unemployed. Come on, he was a great AHL coach. Yeah, it doesn't. They don't have anything listed for him right now. That is surprising. Still looking up. Yeah. Huh. Okay. Well, let's see. I'll try to find out something. But here we go. Something from April 10th. Former AHL coach Drew Bannister to lead Canada's under-18 team at World Championship. So I guess he's going to be coaching youngsters again. That's good. That's probably a good role for him. He could work his way back to the NHL doing that for sure. And yeah, George Washington chimes in. That's a thing I thought I'd never say. Yeah, he did say that as I answered myself. Coaching under 18 Canada. Good for him. But yeah, another one I wanted to mention, which includes you, Bill, is you mentioned Armstrong, and that was his first year before the 19 run. Now, I will say now I feel like it's warranted again, but before the 19 run, every one of us at some point said it's time to fire Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then look what he does in 2019. Wins us a cup. Now he is a St. Louis hero for life.
Yeah, and we did get critical of him again, but yeah, we were all done with him. I think the disappointment in 2018, just we got close in 2016. That was when we got to the conference final. Was it the conference final against San Jose?
Yep.
And couldn't seal the deal. And then they screwed the pooch on Brian Elliott, sent him packing. And that 2018 was a rough year. And 2019, Armstrong's career got resurrected by a lot of circumstance. Our starting goalies for that year were Jake Allen and Chad Johnson. Billy Husso was number one on our depth chart. And the team shat the bed. Mike Yeo gets fired. Ruby comes in and started setting the table, but it wasn't until Jordan Binnington, right, that the craziness of Jordan Binnington becoming our number one goalie that really probably extended Armstrong's career 7 years.
Yeah. Which, I mean, you got to think at the end of that season, Stillman's got to make the move. If they don't make the jump to what they did, probably end of the year, I think you're seeing Armstrong fired in 2019. So, yeah, quite the miraculous run they went on, obviously. We all know the story with that. But the thing for me was, so Divide by Zero here says, it wasn't without cause of the Armstrong thing. The Oshie trade was one of the worst in the history of the team. It's funny you say that, Divide by Zero. That was one of the trades I actually liked. I was ready to see Oshie go just because I didn't think anything he would accomplish would happen here. He was one of those guys that I thought you got to move on from him. Kind of like how I feel about Kyrou right now. Like, he's not the guy you think he is. You built him up to be this top line winger. That's not what he is. And then he goes to Washington. Perfect role for him. Right wing behind Ovechkin. That's right where he belonged. I just don't think they would ever figure that out here in St. Louis. And I'll admit, the one season we had him, I loved Troy Brouwer. Thought he was great. Obviously didn't work out with him. He goes on to Calgary and completely shits the bed and, doesn't last in the NHL for long after that. But, for me, it was more the Sobotka stuff. I'm going to give they'd lose at the end in the playoffs. He'd say, I'm going to give Vladimir Sobotka a call. He said that, 2 or 3 years in a row. And it was just like, Soboka's not your answer, dude. At best, he's your fourth line center. And you're thinking he's going to be the answer to getting you over the hump in the playoffs. The constant going back to Hitchcock, which I know was a big problem with you, Bill. It was clear he held on to Hitchcock for at least 2 years too long. And sticking with Jake Allen, Derek Roy signing, Yori Laterra. I mean, Steve Ott, the knee-jerk reaction to signing him. There was a lot that he did that made me say, it's time for you to go, Doug Armstrong. But clearly, like I said, first Stanley Cup in Blues history. He was the GM. I am happy to admit that I was wrong about firing him before 2019.
Yeah, me too. And I just thought of a Mount Rushmore that we could possibly do for next week, or not even a Mount Rushmore, but what's your favorite take you had on this show?
Favorite take I've ever had. Ooh.
Yeah, so keep it in mind. Think about it for next week.
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay. I'll have to think about that. Now, Bill, obviously I'm going to call you out on one. Hoffman with 30 goals. One of my favorites. I have that clip somewhere. But yeah, I remember Kurt even saying in a shortened season, and you just go, and I could tell the wheels in your head were, damn it, I forgot it's a shortened season.
Yep.
But you're like, I got to stick with it. So you just go, yep.
Crazier things have happened.
Yep.
I think I was originally going to say 40 goals. I'm like 30. And yeah. I mean, yeah, it's the recency bias, and he was off to such a hot start.
Yep. Yeah. That was, yeah. Well, and they signed him, and I remember he couldn't even play in the first game for some reason. I don't think
the Canadian visa issue. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. And so I remember you even the next show saying, there's one game where he can't score a goal. That's unfair.
Yeah,
I think we even said,
I get
29 then.
I get a mulligan on that one.
Mm-hmm. But another good one was, and this one was a little bit more in jest, but Kurt saying that Zach Bolduc would never play in the NHL because he said he does not have a name. I think his exact quote was, Bolduc does not have a name that is conducive to playing in the NHL. And it was the most off the wall weird thing that he's probably ever said on this show. But it is funny because, last season he comes in and was incredible for the Blues. And we were just like, oh, every time we're like, hey, Kurt, thought that guy wasn't going to play in the NHL. I said he'd get at least 5 games with the Blues. And we're like, okay, but you're wrong on that too.
Did we do an over-under with that? And he's like, he'll play less than 39 games.
Yeah, some like
crazy number like that.
Yep. So let's see. Winning Unlimited. Sobocop patrolled the red line and neutralized the other team. Divided by 0. And he's talking about Armstrong here. He paid through the nose for Phoenix Copley and then gave him back for nothing. Yeah, I remember us commenting on that one too. Like, because he got him in the Oshie trade. And then he sent him back the next season to Washington in the Shattenkirk trade. And we were like, what? Like, wasn't that like the centerpiece of your Oshie trade? Like more than Brouwer? And you just send him right back for Zach Sanford? Like, that made no sense. So yeah, not a fan of that one either. And then Divide by 0. I always thought Sobey was serviceable. I never thought he hurt us in any way. I thought he was overplayed. Oftentimes you'd see him on the top line with Tarasenko because for some reason Hitchcock was certain those two had chemistry. I don't know why he ever thought that. And I just thought, again, like with Armstrong, just that was his answer. What are you going to do this summer to, get this team over the hump in the playoffs? Well, I'm going to call Vladimir Sobotka and see if he's interested in coming back. Why are you worried about your fourth line center? Like, we need goals. We need defensemen. We need guys that are doing the big things on the ice. We got guys that can do the fourth line role. Why are you so worried about Vladimir Sobotka?
Yeah, and wasn't Armstrong the reason why Sobotka wasn't here? Because he alienated him? Or it was Hitchcock that alienated him by not playing him?
Basically,
yeah.
Never made sense to me. But hey,
no.
End of the day, Saboka served a purpose. He helped get us Ryan O'Reilly.
This is
So,
true.
Can't even
Him
really
and
complain.
Patrick Berglund and Tage Thompson. God,
Yeah.
did you see that Buffalo game
Yes.
Sunday night?
Yes.
Oh my God, what a third period of hockey that was.
Incredible game. Yeah, it looked like they were going to get shut out, and they turned it on in that third period and took it to Boston.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Berglund. That was another one we got wrong. We had the conversation when Maroon was like early January. We had a show, and I think Maroon had like 2 goals for the Blues, was getting healthy scratched every night. And we had the conversation, who would you rather have, Berglund or Maroon? And all 3 of us said Patrick Berglund.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think Patrick Berglund scores the game-winning goal in the
Game 7
against the Dallas Stars.
No, he would have fallen down trying to get out of the face-off dot.
Yep. So we're wrong on that. And then one for me, I said after the surgery with Tarasenko, I said he'd never score 30 goals again. I called him, I believe, a shell of himself. And I do believe that he came in the next year, had the most goals and most points he had ever scored. That was the year the Blues had that prolific offense, the first year with Buchnevich. And every guy seemed like they scored 20 goals that year. So clearly I was wrong on that one. But again, we talk about how we're wrong on some of these, and it's like, you know what? I'm happy we're wrong because it was positive for the Blues when we were wrong.
Most of the time.
Yep. And then most recently, both of us said Team USA was going to suck without Cole Caulfield and Lane Hudson. Clearly, they went on to win gold. I will add a caveat in that. I think they have a better tournament with those 2 players on their roster. I will just say that. But clearly, they were still good enough to win the gold medal.
Right. And Jason Robertson.
Yep. Another one.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But yeah, I mean, for me, I was definitely upset that my 2 Habs didn't make that roster. But hey, we got it wrong. And, Cash Patel got to party with the boys in the locker room. That's all that matters.
Good for him. Winning Unlimited said, who did Bill say was going to score 40 that one year? That was Mike Hoffman. Did you say 30 or 40?
I think I said 40.
Shoot.
I think it was 40.
I think you're right now that I think about it. Yeah. Oh, Bill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That would have been incredible, though.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah. All right. Any more from you?
No. I think that's good.
Like, I don't want to talk bad about myself anymore. I'm too awesome.
No, I don't take self-criticism very well.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, next week, I like what you said. Your best take you've ever had on this show. I'll have to put some thought into that. We'll do that one next week. And folks, we will have Kurt Price with us. He has confirmed,
he is coming back to face the allegations.
Yes, he is. Finally, we're gonna put him on trial.
We're not gonna be like Dexter and go out without the trial, right?
I thought when you said Dexter, I thought you were talking about his dog.
Well, he'll be here too. But
yes.
No, the show Dexter, one of my all-time favorite TV shows, but the way they ended the first version of it was just a cop-out.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I'm glad that it keeps going and is still very interesting. So
yep,
can't wait to see.
I've not watched it since they ended it the first time, so I need to get back into it.
Yeah, the first one, the current one's called Resurrection, but the first season that they did, Clancy Brown in it, really fucking good. The last one was even better, and they're coming back again, and Brian Cox is going to be in this season, so totally have to watch it.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'll turn that on. Clancy Brown, the voice of Mr. Krabs. Love it. Love that guy. All right. Well, there is some news that came from the Blues this week. Contracts for assistant coaches Claude Julien and Mike Weber will not be renewed. Excuse me. Julien, 65, joined the Blues as assistant coach in summer of 2024. And Weber is 38, joined the Blues as an assistant coach in the summer of 2023. I we kind of alluded to this last week that both those guys would probably it's a good idea, I think, to move on. For one thing, the Blues, something they've always done, and I hope Steen brings in a different regime. I feel like, especially under Armstrong, this team has never really seemed to let the head coach pick his assistants. And I don't like that. I think the head coach needs to be comfortable with the team around him. So, they had, who was the bald guy? Ray something that was with this team through like 3 head coaches. And I'm like, Ray Bennett, right?
Yeah,
and I was like,
he was rolled over from Mike Kitchen through Andy Murray and I think Davis Payne.
Yeah, and he was still here with Hitchcock, at least for a little while.
Mhm.
And I thought, what is this? Like, let the coach decide. Maybe the coach met with him and said, yeah, I like this guy. But you never see assistant coaches last that long through so many head coaches. And it's because you let the head coach come in and you say, who do you want on your staff? And maybe we're not going to make that change right away. But next season, we won't renew contracts. We'll fire. We'll get you who you want. But I just don't feel like at least under Armstrong, this team has ever done that. So I'm hoping Steen changes that aspect, because I do think if you're really sold on Montgomery being your head coach, I think you need to let him pick his coaches. And I think that they're going to let him do that this summer. Obviously, the GM will have insight too, but I do think it's going to be a lot left up to Montgomery to make that decision.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We'll get to it in the quotes from Armstrong, but it almost sounds like he's going to be the one making the call based on what he said in his comments. So, I think we made the point a couple of times that nobody here really knew what Julien's role was, other than old bald guy on the bench. Of course he's the his experience with Montreal and Boston is impeccable. His service record as a coach in the NHL. Also, it was nice having the trivia question present on the Blues bench. Who is the only NHL player ever traded for a coach? Claude Julien.
Yep.
So
very interesting.
But yeah, you just with Mike Weber, I think just with how bad the defense was the first half of the year, like go back to the Mike Van Ryn days. When Van Ryn came here, we were all super excited, thought, oh, this guy's gonna have some great ideas, young guy, he's gonna come in and make a great difference. And they had no fucking clue, and he overstayed his welcome for a year or two. And I feel like we were getting there with Weber. It was nice to have Weber after Van Ryn, but the way that the defense was just abjectly terrible over the last 2 seasons, you didn't think he was coming back. So.
No. Yeah, it seemed like they kind of corrected some things after the Olympic break, but yeah, this season especially, good Lord, there was. I still don't think it was Van Ryn bad, but it was pretty bad. And I think you needed, at the very least, a new voice on the defensive side of the puck. And I do think that they'll get somebody maybe a little bit more seasoned this time around. Weber was taken from the AHL Rochester team, I believe. And so I think maybe you'll get somebody who's maybe been around the block a little bit more in the NHL that has designed some good defensive systems. And so we'll see. Montgomery's obviously well networked, and see who he picks. I will say I never hated Weber, but this year I was with you 100%, where I was like, yeah, it's time. It's time to move on. I think his contract's up at the end of the year. Let's just see it end. And I'm with you. I think, and apparently there's rumors that Julien is a guy that could be getting another head coaching job this year in the summer. So we'll see. There's going to be a couple vacancies, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he will or not, but either way, I'm glad that they're doing a little bit of an overhaul. We lost Steve Ott to the Thunderbirds. Good chance he gets a job in the NHL somewhere, but I am glad to see that we're going to get a full slate, I think, of assistant coaches outside of the goaltending coach coming into next season. So A couple different things that we can talk about here. Obviously, tale two different seasons between the Blues before the Olympic break and after the Olympic break. Different stats we could discuss. The exit interviews were obviously a big part. But the thing I think I want to lead with, Bill, is talking about kind of the trade deadline, things that happened there. Doug Armstrong in his post-game presser, he said, talking about the Thomas trade talks, he said some of these were trade talks. Some of these trade talks are a little bit of fabrication. They start out and all of a sudden they get legs and they go and they go and they go and they never stop. The cost of acquiring someone of Robert Thomas's talent is extremely high. I don't think anyone values Robert Thomas more in the NHL than Doug Armstrong values Robert Thomas in the NHL. So if he was available, the reason he's here is because I value him higher than any other or anyone else. He also added that decisions on Thomas and Parayko in the future will depend on Alexander Steen's plans. But first of all, love that he used himself in the third person there.
He Ricky Hendersoned it.
He really did. But second of all, I think we said this at the trade deadline, Bill, that I think a lot of this is just speculation, fabrication. And, to me, it was, you can call me and I'll talk to you about what I'm interested in if I'm going to trade Robert Thomas, but you're going to have to reach deep into your pockets. And I just don't think anyone was really that big on acquiring Thomas to lose what Armstrong was asking.
Yeah, watching the Minnesota Dallas game, and Jake Ottinger just put a glove into the back of some of Eric Sinek, and a whole bunch of stuff. Oh no! It was Tyler Myers. From the first angle, it looked like Ottinger took him down, but this game's intense.
Yeah. Did you see that? You said you were watching the Flyers Penguins game.
Mm-hmm.
Crosby got that embellishment penalty, which was a bad embellishment. Did you see that?
I didn't.
Oh my goodness! So they were lining up for the face-off, and is it Garnett Hathaway on the Flyers? He was skating by, and his stick kind of got tangled with the ref, and it slowly caught. And this was, play wasn't even going. Slowly caught Crosby in the face. He went down like he was shot, and they called embellishment, and they called a high stick, which normally I don't like that call, but I think it actually made sense because even though you're a little bit tangled up with the linesman, you got to have control of your stick. You did get him in the face, but Crosby did not need to react the way he did. You know what number embellishment penalty that was for Crosby in his career?
First.
Mm-hmm. Can you believe that?
Yeah, he's
been good, I think, about that the last couple of years, but early in his career, God, he was doing that all the time.
Right. And he got away with it. And that's the thing that's why, I think they had a clip of it in the intermission with Lundqvist, who's on the panel for TNT tonight, going at him during a game about diving and embellishing. So I missed the lead up to that, but he got held accountable eventually.
Yeah, it only took until he was 38 years old for them to finally call it. Like, unbelievable. And then on the Binnington trade talks, Armstrong also said, quote, "The NHL is a long season. You need two good goaltenders. I think that the tandem can lead a team through dark times. Not every game is going to be great, but we have two goalies that can be great any given night, and that gives us great opportunity." I also wanted to really quick comment on what Binnington said on being traded. He said, quote, "For me, I'm a competitive goaltender, right? For me, it's just taking care of what's in my control. It's the same old story I give every time, but if I take care of what's in my control, the rest will unfold. I will say I believe in what Steiner has in mind for this group. I'm excited about that, and being part of a good, winning, successful hockey team is where I want to be. That's something you just handle as it comes." Reading those two quotes, I feel like, now granted, things can change quickly in the NHL. I feel like they're planning on Binnington being here next season, that he will be the backup to Joel Hofer.
Yeah. I think Joel Hofer is definitely, after this season, um, playing more like the number one goalie. So that's totally realistic scenario. And who wouldn't want a Stanley Cup champion as your backup goalie if he's willing to take that role, right? To me, that seemed like um, the last line of his quote. That's something you just handle as it comes. Is like, I know it's not in my control. Like I just said, right? I can control what I can control. Everything else unfolds, right? He knows it's not in his control, but he's expressing his desire to stay here and to continue to be a part of this group. And to me, he's matured so much over the last 5 years. And, you almost want to see him nominated for, the Masterton because of that, right? He was so hated because of his, the outburst and the water bottle throwing and the, what he did in trying to get the fight with Fleury, the stick swinging. He's not that guy anymore. And these are very emotionally mature quotes, and I appreciate them. I have 3 Jordan Binnington jerseys, so a little bit of a personal desire to see him stick around here. But I hope you're right.
Joe Schmo says in the chat, you need a tandem. Injuries happen. Goalies get cold. Better 2 good than 1 great. IMO. I agree. I actually strongly agree with that. I think you can, if you have 2 good goalies, you can still ride that one in the playoffs. That I think is the way to go. But it's like, hey, if he falters, we got another guy. We got a Stanley Cup winner backing him up that has shown to play his best hockey in big moments. And yeah, I agree. I think I want to see him stay. And I'll admit, part of it is a fanboy in me that Jordan Binnington is my favorite player on this team. He probably will be as long as he's still here. But at the same time, I look at the Blues' depth in goal, and I'm just like, right now, you've got Luve Herenstam, who is not ready next season. I think you hold on to Binnington. If Edmonton comes calling and they say, we'll give you a first and a roster player, you got to take it. But, for me, I think he's the guy that you got to look at as slated as your 1B or your 2 or whatever you want to look at. For me, that just makes sense because he's the guy that can pick up Hofer when he's down. We've seen that now, 3 seasons in a row. When one guy's not playing well, the other guy typically steps in and plays better. We saw that this year with Hofer. We saw it last year with Binnington picking up Hofer. And I love the idea of keeping Binnington around just for that reason. But I know, like I said, things can change quickly. So
great podcasting with me yawning when I want to make the point that
yes,
that the one downside is it's a heavy contract for a backup goalie.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need to clear roster space, that's a very easy place for a GM to go. Hopefully we're not in that position to have to make that decision.
Comment of the show says, I think if an Ottawa deal were to happen, it would involve Binnington. That's an interesting Olmark and Binnington. That's a pretty solid 1-2 right there. He also says, my first Blues jersey was a Binnington. That guy needs a statue.
I agree.
The longer it goes for this team, the more I think about it, I do think he's going to be, because you're going to get one of those Stanley Cup players to get a statue. I do think Binnington is the guy that makes the most sense. He's been here the longest now. Whether he leaves this summer or not, he's going to be the longest tenured after the Cup. And you got to figure he's probably only got 5 years tops left in the NHL. So maybe he goes and plays somewhere else, but I don't think it's going to be one of those like, oh, he's going to go on and win 5 cups somewhere else, and that's how he'll be remembered. I think he's always going to be one of those guys like Brett Hull that will be remembered as a St. Louis Blue. Like, yeah, you were, you won your cup in Dallas and Detroit, but, he's still a Blue. Everybody thinks of Brett Hull as a St. Louis Blue, and I think it's going to be the same way with Binnington.
Yeah. I still think it's Pietrangelo that is the guy that gets a statue from that team. Just, it sucks that he left, but that whole thing really, really sucked. I don't know, Binnington, for him to be here, it just, he fits. He is, like I said, I own 3 jerseys. Just absolutely would hate to see him go. And what I would love to see is for him to do for Joel Hofer what Jake Allen did for him if we get back to a playoff cup run, right? The being able to be the other team's goalie, right? And it really wasn't as much for Binnington, but for the rest of the team. I think that's awesome. That's probably my favorite contribution Jake Allen made to this team. So I'd love to see Binnington stay and even take that page out of his book.
Yeah, I agree.
Real quick, watching the Dallas and Minnesota game, and I just had a thought. Marcus Foligno, obviously his brother Nick plays for the Wild, but is he actually the twin brother of David Harbour?
I saw him a couple weeks ago, and I was like, he looks more like David Harbour than he looks like his brother. So I'm with you. Yeah, that's weird. That's weird. I had the exact same thought. Yeah, he's going to be the next Hellboy.
He just got bloodied up pretty good. So
yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Okay, next player I wanted to talk about. Well, let's talk about that top line a little bit. So Dylan Holloway is going to be a restricted free agent this summer. And we've talked about it last week. We think that there's probably a good bridge deal to happen there for Holloway. But Armstrong said, quote, Dylan Holloway has to prove himself in the league and to the league that he's an 82-game player to that level that he played at the end. I think he is, but what I think is really irrelevant, it's what he does. That's just an honest answer that we need consistent 82-game play. Spot on, Doug. I agree. I think we talked about it. He was a little slow as a Blue to start off last season, which, was, understandable. He was coming to a new team. He was young. He hadn't really broken out at all yet. We didn't know what we had in him. Then he played incredible throughout most of the season last year. Had the injury, came back this season, looked awful to start the year, got injured, came back, got injured, and then after the Olympic break, he looked like himself again. He was putting up points tremendously, playing on the top line, looked right at home with Thomas and Stuggerud. I love this kid. I think he'll be sticking around, but I'm with somebody said on the when we were talking about this a couple weeks ago that they need to sign Holloway to a 7-8 year deal. I cannot agree with that. I'm with Doug. He's already kind of leveling the playing field, I think, here with Holloway and his agent, saying, we need to see a full effort from you. We can't lock you up long term. I'd say give him 1 or 2 years, whatever bridge deal you can work out with him. And then you see what you can do, even if that brings him out into unrestricted free agency land. I think you need to get more consistency out of him. I'm not even saying, because obviously, injuries you can't control. But going into this season, whether he was starting off the season injured or not, he looked like a shell of himself. It wasn't until the Olympic break we saw Dylan Holloway again. And you cannot have that long stretch of hockey without one of your top players.
Yeah, the hard part about this for me is injuries aren't the player's fault. And the RFA negotiation is probably the most tenuous one that a player goes through. And for them to be playing this kind of hardball with them, like, he seems to have the right disposition and desire to be here. So maybe you can do it without completely alienating him. But that's what I worry that they do, right? You don't on the business side of things, you do not want to put money into a guy that's going to be on the IR 50% of the time, right? We're not in a position to do and I don't think he's a great player. He's not Nikita Kucherov, where we can afford him to miss the regular season and play in the playoffs, right? He has to be an integral part of this team throughout the season. So I get it. And hopefully he and his agent are amicable to a bridge deal. And then he tears it up, and the Blues are, instead of looking at an $8 million deal, we're talking a $10 million deal. He's got that much upside, and the economics of the NHL are headed that direction anyway. So,
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I, it's somebody's, who was it here? Comment of the show. You know who would appreciate picking up an RFA high scoring winger like Holloway? Edmonton. That's never happened, right? Where a guy gets RFA picked up by one team and then picked back up in a same circumstance. That's never happened. That would be interesting, though.
Yeah, it can't happen in the same, I thought there was a rule that it couldn't happen within the same year or something like that.
But I think this would be totally legal. No, I will say the issue with Edmonton doing that is the Blues have wiggle room with the cap. When the Blues did that, it was purely, we know you can't sign these guys. You're going to have to make trades to make this happen.
Right.
For the Blues, they can make it work. Even if they were like, we'll sign Dylan Holloway to an 8-year deal, $80 million, whatever. That'd be crazy. I don't think they would do that. But I think the Blues have a little bit more wiggle room with the cap to where they could be like, we'll figure it out. We'll just drop this guy. We'll trade this guy off. That's probably where you trade Binnington to free up his salary. And then I think the Blues make it happen. But yeah, for me, it's a totally different ball game because the Blues are able to absorb that.
So Divide by Zero says split the difference, 2 years, $6 million. There's obviously contract talk going on in the chat. He's not a defenseman. He doesn't get the $6 million range.
Yeah, right. You can't do that.
You can't do that.
Only defensemen get that.
Oh my God. So Dallas has a 5-on-3. Ryan Hartman has taken a couple of penalties here, and
shock.
The last penalty was definitely embellishment by Radek Faksa. And yeah, there was no reason to call it. And now they got to
do something about that. They got to do something about that in the NHL. I'm sorry. I know there are more pressing things, high sticks and players getting injured, but to me, that is such a it's the
scourge.
Yeah. I mean, again, mentioning the Crosby one tonight, to me, if I'm the NHL player safety or whoever, I don't even know if it's player safety that handles suspensions for embellishment. I would say first embellishment penalty, you're getting a fine. Second one, you're getting suspended. Third one, you're getting 5 games. To me, that is something that does not belong in the sport, and I absolutely would do everything I could to get rid of it. But NHL is not going to do that because they're not harsh enough. Anyway, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I don't remember at this point.
All right, doesn't matter. Then Armstrong on Jordan Kyrou struggles this year. He says, you take the last 3 years, he's a 30-goal scorer that had a bad year. He's in the prime of his career where he wants to be successful, and how he's going to go about doing that is something that he's going to have to wrestle with Montgomery and Steen on making sure this doesn't happen again. If you're going to play in this league for 15, 16 years like he could, not every year is going to be a Rembrandt. But if I'm him, I'm excited to get up tomorrow morning to go to work and prove to everybody that the 25-26 season was an aberration, and that's not going to happen again. I believe that's what he will do. Kyrou also added in his conference, quote, I've loved my time here in St. Louis. The team has been amazing to me. I love the city. I love playing here. We've got a lot of good young players coming in right now, and there's a really great future coming up here for this team. I'm going to say what I said last week. the way he skates, the way he plays is so different from when he first came up. And I know you can say that about a lot of players, but to me, he just, and I know it's probably not true, but he just looks so disinterested. He's not, to me, I felt like if he's not on the first line, he's not skating. Too many times we've seen him just get blown by in the neutral zone. He shies away from puck battles in the corners. And I will say, I do agree with Armstrong in the sense that I do think this year was a bit of an aberration. I don't think he's an 18-goal scorer in the NHL. I think he could easily come back to scoring 30 goals next year. But there's just too many times where I've seen him shy away from the things that make a good hockey player. And if I'm the Blues, if I'm Alexander Steen, I am trying to figure out where I could move him, how I could move him. And I'm not saying you need to move him for a 7th round pick and just be done with it. But I think if you can package him and get a good deal in return, whether it's a draft pick or a young player, I do it. I am very ready to see Jordan Kyrou off this roster.
Yeah, I depends on what you can get for him. I don't think they're going to trade him based on Armstrong's comments. I think I said it the last 2 years that if I'm Jordan Kyrou, the day the season's over, I'm calling Gary Roberts or whoever it is, one of those guys that runs one of the hard ass camps to make you a tougher NHL player. And that's my guy for that summer, right? I'm not going to go back to the well and do the same thing, skate with the same guys. I am going to specifically seek out a guy. Now, with Kyrou, I will say his defensive game has improved.
Yes.
There were several opportunities that he broke up late in this season where he was the guy that came back with back pressure. And 2 years ago, that wouldn't have been him. Was he focused too much on that side of it? Can he put it all together? I expect he's going to get one more opportunity to prove that to this team.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, if I had my druthers, he'd be gone. But it's got to be the right trade. It can't just be an unloading. I don't think Carbonneau's the guy to come in and take his spot next year.
Not yet.
So I think we're going to need 30 goal scorers next year because we barely had 20 goal scorers this year.
Yep, I agree. Divide by 0. I'd rather move on from Buchnevich than Kyrou. I mean, yes, I agree, but I think Kairou's more appealing to teams. He's younger. He's got more of a proven track record with being a guy that can score big-time goals. He's got highlight reel after highlight reel of crazy goals he's scored. I think he's just more appealing. Plus, I think his contract is way more affordable, whereas Buchnevich, again, maybe I think he's making about the same as Kyrou, but he's a lesser player. He's not the player Kyrou is, at least in terms of what their ceiling is. And I unfortunately think this team is stuck with Buchnevich for a while. This guy will be a Blues fourth liner probably within 4 years, and he will be there until he decides to either go to Russia or maybe the Blues try to do the contract termination thing with him at that point. But yeah, I definitely think Buchnevich, unfortunately, is here to stay unless the Blues find another team that has another problem contract and they're just like, hey, let's do a swap. Let's see if we can get more blood out of the stone if we can get it from your guy, you can get it from our guy. But I just don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think our only hope of that happening is if Ron Hextall gets another front office job in the NHL.
Oh, let's hope.
There's a Yori Laterra part 2.
Yes.
Yeah. No, the Buchnevich contract, the timing of it, just terrible. Terrible parting gift for Armstrong. And that's where you'd almost want an owner to say, are you sure? Have you had a cognitive test lately?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, Buchnevich when he's on, he is a very unique player that you wish you had if he's not on your team. But he is so inconsistent. He is off way more than he's on. Yeah, and last year it cost us a chance to go to the second round of the playoffs because his brain turned off.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think if there's additional subtraction, can you tell I'm not a math guy? If there are more subtractions to come, I would like to see it start with him too.
So yeah, they are making, so Kyrou is making a little bit more. I was right. Yeah, 8.125, and Buchnevich is at 8. Their contracts end both in the 29-30 season, which, God, that feels so far away. But yeah, so yeah, I think that.
And how old will Buchnevich be?
Oh man, Buchnevich, so he's 31 now. So in the 30 season, he will 34.
34,
and
35.
Yeah, and Kyrou is 27 now, so he'll be 31 when his contract ends. I've said this before. I cannot wait to see that man off the St. Louis Blues roster. He picked it up late in the season, like the rest of the team did, but he has too many spurts where he is just not even just not scoring points, but worthless. Like, should not even be in the lineup because he doesn't know how to handle pucks. He doesn't play well defensively. There's just too many times throughout the season where that guy is just should not even be playing, but they're going to play him because of his contract, which is very annoying, but you understand it. I mean, you gotta, if you start sitting the guy, no one is interested in a trade with him, although he does also have a full no trade clause, which is also extremely annoying, but I feel like every player on this team has a no trade clause at this point.
Yes, a literal head scratcher.
Yep. Last thing I wanted to mention with the postseason presser was, and we mentioned it earlier, I believe it was Divide by Zero, so I don't know if you're still here. So it was Armstrong talking about the top draft pick. So he said, quote, "Once the season's over, you wish you had the high pick. I did talk to the players after the trade deadline, and I told them we're going to bring up younger players and put them in positions that reflect what we want to see from them. We have a plan, and your job is to disrupt that plan." And they did. Yeah, we could have picked number 2 or 3, but there would be less belief in our group if we had just rolled over and gotten doormatted the last 7 weeks of the season. That is exactly what I've been trying to convey on this show, that the coaches and the players do not want to tank. They don't want to lose their jobs. And I think it was Divide by Zero last week who said he'd start sitting players. You start doing that, you're winning and we're going to sit you, and it's like, you want to have a winning culture, even if you're wanting your team to pick high. To see this team be able to come together and figure it out, and like Armstrong said, disrupt the plan of we're going to bring up all the young guys we can. That's what you want to see in this roster. And I said it early on, back in like December, when people were talking about a high pick. I said, to me, I don't want to get a high pick at this point because this team is built to be a playoff team. And so if you're stuck with a lot of these guys. We mentioned it, Kyrou, Thomas, Buchnevich, Fowler, Parayko. Like, the core of your team is going to be here, not just because of the length of their contracts, but because they all have no trade clauses. So all you're going to do is bring in a top-end talent who is going to be sitting here saying, I'm stuck with these guys for the next 4 years. Get me the hell out of here. I don't want to play with these guys because they're losers. So for me, yes, it would have been nice getting that high pick, but I wanted to see this team succeed a little bit and play better than they were. And they did. And it sucks we didn't get that high pick. But at the same time, this is the team, not saying that, the way they finished down the stretch was the team they are. I think that's closer to who they are than what we saw all season. I think early in the season, was just not who this team truly is. So, obviously next season we come in and we see the same thing. You can fight me on that and say, yeah, see, I was right. This team's terrible. But to me, this team is better than what we saw most of the season.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think the part of that quote that about bringing in the younger guys, that part of me feels like it was only half genuine, and that's because they did bring in Lindstein, and when it was time for him to go back for the playoffs, they sent him back down. But on the defensive side of it, I would much rather them have brought back oh God, who was the guy that was up for the 2-game call up in December, right-handed?
Kaskamaki?
No, God, my brain is not good with names at this point. But he was having a fairly decent season at the point that he got the call up. Got a lot of fanfare, only got 1 game and got sent back down. Strickland interviewed his parents.
Hunter Skinner.
Yes, Hunter Skinner. I would much rather have seen him playing than Tyler Tucker.
Yes.
Right. Again, that's, he is the least liked person on this podcast at this point.
Yes.
Right. So, it's no secret we don't like him. But for me, if Armstrong was serious about bringing young guys in and giving them the chance, Skinner would have been up here, right?
Yes.
It wouldn't have just been Theo Lindstein. Theo Lindstein looked great. He'll be here next year, right? We don't, and then they're not going to bring up Jiricek this year because, he's still, coming back from the injuries and having a pretty solid year in the O. Almost thought, because they signed a defenseman. What was the guy out of NCAA, right? I thought chance he could come up, but they signed him to play in the A. No. There's a free agent, college free agent.
You're killing me, Bill.
I know. The guy that's never prepared for the show.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Yeah. So anyway, I think we had opportunities to have other guys in the lineup that weren't Tyler Tucker and Matt Kessel, and we didn't see it. So
why am I not seeing that in the Blues' news feed?
It's a French name.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on it.
Draw me like one of your French girls.
Yes, one of those. I wonder if they've got them listed in the system. We'll find it. I'm not going to try too hard.
I'm going back to find
it. Anyway, so yes, I agree. Let's see. Ace in the chat. I know you will think I'm crazy, but I think Carbonneau plays his way on this team next year. Maybe not start of season, but he will be here next year. I agree with you, Rob.
You're
talked
crazy
about that on the show. No, you are. Not for this reason, but you are crazy. No, I do think that we will see him at least get probably 5-10 games on the team next season. I think he'll be first call up for injury. Now, if he steps in and has a training camp like he had last season, I think he starts with the team here, but I do think he probably they probably tell him, hey, we want you to play in the AHL, get a little more used to the speed of this North American hockey, well, I guess American hockey, and we'll see what you got. But yeah, I do think we will see him up with the Blues at some point. Bill,
Felix Trudeau,
that's it. Yep. Last thing that I wanted to mention is something that Jim Montgomery said. So he was asked about naming a captain since Braden Shen was traded. He says, I don't think it's necessary to have a captain if you don't have a captain, and I don't know if we do or not. I don't think we necessarily have to have one next year. Boston hasn't had one this year, and they're a playoff team and significantly improved. Now, if you think you have the right person, you should name a captain. That's the way I feel about it. Yeah, I agree. It's weird because every year I say, and I think I said this last week, that I always feel like a team should have a captain. If for no reason other than to talk to the refs when there's like a skirmish and it's like, hey, tell me what's going on so I can relay it to my team. Like, to me, that's a big part of being a captain, is being able to just kind of be the voice on the ice for your team. But for me, I also look at it and I'm like, I don't know if anyone really stands out to me. Jake Neighbors is the obvious answer, but looking at how and again, I don't think he played bad, but after the Shen trade, I feel like his game changed a little. I think he was gripping his stick a little too tight. He was trying to get more involved physically, which is good, but I feel like his game changed a little. And I think it's because he knows he's probably the front runner for the captain, but I don't want to see him change his game. We saw Braden Shen, I think, do that early when he was named captain, and then quickly realized, no, I don't need to change my game, play the same way. This is what got me here. And I feel like it's going to be the same with Jake Neighbors. So for me, I just don't think, and again, I hate to talk about maturity, but I just don't think he's at that point yet to be captain. So I think maybe you go a season and you say, we're not going to have a captain. And maybe throughout the year, if Neighbors starts to show that he can truly be that leader, maybe, I don't know, can you do that mid-season? I think you can. Say, hey, we're going to name our captain. It's going to be Jake Neighbors, in December, whatever. But to start the year, I don't feel like anybody truly stands out to be your captain.
Yeah, the idea of Neighbors, like that feels like an eventuality, right?
Yes.
And it will happen, but I think you don't give it to him next year because, not to say he's not deserving, but he hasn't earned it yet.
Yes.
Right. I think you're giving it to him because there's a vacancy and not because he's that guy. Keep playing your game, not the game you think you need to play, but the game that got you here, and you'll naturally become the guy. And that's what I want to see. I don't think he's ready. I agree with you completely. I was trying to find it. There was a comment in here about are there any free agents that are captain material? That's not how you get a captain, right? And you don't. I agree with Armstrong. You don't need one, right? There are natural leaders on a team. And they don't have to wear a seat to do it. And like I said, I think eventually that's going to be Jake Neighbors. But you don't go out. That's not on your shopping list in the NHL in 2026 is, need a new captain.
Yeah. I mean, I can see them saying we need some more veteran leadership, but you don't just hand them the C, unless you're going and getting Connor McDavid. Which is not going to happen.
Right. When the Blues traded Wayne Gretzky, it's like, oh, we already have a captain. No, you don't. You have Wayne Gretzky.
Yep. Wayne Gretzky is your captain. Sorry.
Yes. Yes.
The only guy who will be captain over Wayne Gretzky is Mark Messier, and that's what happened in New York.
Who was the captain when we acquired him? Was it Carbonneau?
No, it was Shane Corson, wasn't it?
Shane Corson. No brainer there.
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
Oh, you want me to, not even wear an A? I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Welcome, Mr. Gretzky.
So a lot of people, we're seeing some talk here about Carbonneau in the chat. But a lot of people are excited about Carbonneau, which I am too. But the guy I'm most excited for coming up that has not played yet, I think Adam Juracek steps in next year as a defenseman. Now, the Blues are looking like they're going to have a pretty young defense, which I think is good. Because Colton Parayko is kind of your veteran back there. Cam Fowler as well. I think you'll definitely see them split up. But that top pairing we saw this past season with Broberg and Mayu, I think that sticks. I think you're going to see Juracek back in there. And then obviously Theo Lindstein is another guy. So you're probably going to have two rookies again, like they did this year with Lindstein and Mayu at the end of the season. Mayu is now probably your sophomore. He's not eligible to be a rookie anymore. So I think Adam Juracek is a guy that steps in and plays some big minutes. He was scored 59 points this year with the Brantford Bulldogs, fourth among all defensemen in the OHL with 59 points, shared third with 19 goals, and shared sixth with 40 assists. So clearly, Adam Juracek is a guy that the Blues are looking at, and that to me is the biggest name that we're going to see going into the next season. A guy to watch to make this roster.
Yeah. I've already screwed up his name a couple times and called him his brother, who's
David.
Flyers property now. So yeah, that excited to see him. With Carbonneau, I don't think he'll pop in here unless there is, Steen's plans are, strip it further down to the studs. I don't think that's going to happen. So
no. So let me ask you this question, Bill, and I'll answer first because I want to give you time to think about it. Who or what are you most excited about going forward into next season after this season? So again, for me, I'm going to say Philip Broberg. The guy was absolutely incredible this year. From March 21st through the end of the season, he shared 8th among all defensemen in the AHL with 11 points. His 13 rating in that span led all NHL players. He was incredible. He only got better after he signed his extension mid-season. And just a guy that I looked at, and I'm like, this is a number one defenseman. Now, you look at the number one defenseman in the Central, you got guys like Miro Heiskanen, Cale Makar, the Quinn Hughes in Minnesota. These are elite of the elite top defensemen. But to me, Broberg is right behind them. Not saying he's going to be a guy that puts up 60, 70, 80 points, but he's a guy that is going to play top minutes. He's plays shutdown, and he's very well at moving the puck out of his zone, and loves to join the rush, plays very well with a lot of the guys on this roster. I feel like the only way is up for Broberg, which is saying a lot because he had another great season in the Blue Note.
Yeah, think of all the great Swedish defensemen in the league. Dahlin has got to be number one right now. Especially with the way the Sabres have been playing, and he's that guy suffered through all of the shit in Buffalo. So you think I think I've never heard Broberg compared to Hedman, but he plays like you remember Victor Hedman in his first couple of years.
Yes.
Big, lanky, surprising speed and agility, and can play physical when he needs to. Obviously, he's not as bulky as Hedman, but he's probably as brainy as Hedman. And, his ability to push the play and then get back and defend effectively is like every time I watched him play this year, I was just, I had to laugh at what a rip up, like how Armstrong fleeced the Oilers, put him over the, completely put him over the barrel and went to town on him. And it just so brilliant. And yeah, I'm excited about him, but I would say the guy that I'm excited about, the storyline I'm excited about going forward, surprise, surprise, it's the goalie.
No,
Joel
I never would have
Hofer.
guessed. I thought you were going to say Luve Herenstam.
No. I Luve him. I Luve his name, but
Oh.
I haven't seen enough tape. I haven't got in my 8 hours.
Yeah, get your 8 hours in, man.
So, the upside of Joel Hofer, like I think he was really strong on even before the defense came around on this team. From November on, he was one of the top 5 goalies in the NHL. He's not going to get any love for the Vezina because he's on a losing team, right? Well, we wound up over 500, which that we didn't think that was going to happen for most of the season, but he's not going to get any love for the Vezina. But I think he will in the next few years. If as long as he doesn't have a major regression, I love his game. Like he is, I forget what game it was. It was a nationally televised game, and I think it wasn't nationally televised. It was one of those weird games where we did, or maybe it was Darren Pang and Butch Goring were on the call. I think it was a TNT game, and Butch Goring talked about Hofer like he was I
think that was the Islanders game.
Yeah, which is why it makes sense that Goring was on the call, because I think it was Brendan, their play-by-play, or their regular play-by-play guy is Brendan Burke and Butch Goring. So they were on the road and they just said, "Hey, Panger, why don't you join them for this game?" And he's like, "Holy jumping, go to St. Louis." But he referred to him as unorthodox in his style. Big, lanky, but he doesn't play. And it was interesting to hear an outsider's perspective, because you don't get goalie breakdown from either Joey
or Vitale.
Kerber. They don't know the position. They don't do any kind of goalie breakdown. So it was interesting to hear an outsider's perspective. And a guy that's watching probably the best goalie, probably the guy that should win the Vezina, in Sorokin. Will he get it? Probably not, because the Islanders also weren't a playoff team. But interesting to hear that take. I think that he is, what I took away from that is that Hofer, people can see the not just the size, but the athleticism in his game. He's had a couple of our saves of the week, which I wish I would have put more time into making sure we have one of those every week. That's one of my big regrets about this last season, not getting that done. But a lot of times, a few times, it was as a result of him kind of slipping at some point through a sequence, but recovering and making an incredible save. When I was growing up and playing, it was always, if you're making a stellar save, more than likely you were out of position. With him, it was, you had some hiccup in your process, but you still recovered. And, I think that's, he's still young and still learning. I think the best is yet to come for the guy, and I'm super excited to see him in the future.
So, shocker, I picked a defenseman. You picked a goalie.
Mm-hmm.
We will have to ask.
Kurt would totally pick Dalibor Dvorsky or Jimmy Snuggerud.
I think he'd pick Snuggerud. So next week, let's not tell him, because I don't know if he'll listen to this or not, but we'll have to ask him next week when he's on and say, who are you most excited to watch next season? It will probably be Snuggerud, is my guess. So
he might be listening to this right now while eating his Lion's Choice after late night pickleball.
Might be, you never know. I think it's funny that we always seem to do that. It seems, and I don't think it's intentional.
No, it's
I always talk about defense. He talks about the forwards, and you always. We are so well rounded of a show. It's a shame we're going away.
Yeah, no, it's our bias, right? And for us, I don't think it's even subconscious. It's conscious bias, at least for me, right? Like I love. I don't think Henrik Lundqvist is much loved as an analyst. But I get him so well. Like, I know exactly when he starts talking, like, okay, this is the goalie angle, and I appreciate it. So,
Yep. I'm trying to find there was a couple comments earlier about us kind of closing up the show here. But man, I am not finding them. But anyway, there was some nice comments said earlier about us kind of running off into the sunset, and it's unfortunate, but folks, again, we do want to remind you that we will be back next season with a new show. Kind of thinking out loud, but I think with the social media channels for LGB Radio, I think we'll just kind of change those over to the new show, so that way we're not losing the followers, and it's easier for you all to follow along with the updates on the show. Probably start a new YouTube channel, I think, just to kind of officially change things over. But yeah, I do think this will still be a thing. We'll have to find another forward for the new show because, yeah, Kurt unfortunately will not be joining us for the new show, but that is something we always did, which was funny. And I'm with you, Joel Hofer. You know, it's really funny because my wife asked me earlier this season, and I think my answer is a little different now, but she asked me earlier this season who my second favorite player on the team was. And I said, probably Joel Hofer. And she laughed and she goes, your two favorite players are the goalies? And I'm like, yeah, like they're both just so fun to watch. They're good at their positions. And I told her one of the things I love the most is like Joel Hofer has a bad game. Jordan Binnington comes out and plays lights out next game. And then it's vice versa. Binnington has a bad game. Hofer comes out and plays well. And it's like these two guys just seem to always have each other's back. Now, this year was a little different. There was some issues with the goaltending, I think, throughout. Not that they were really ever truly terrible. Just not
October they were.
Yes, but definitely not what we saw from them last season. And so I'd say now my second favorite player is probably Broberg, but Hofer is definitely still up there. And I got quite the dilemma this summer to figure out whose jersey I want to get next, whether it's Hofer or Broberg. Who's your next jersey, Bill? You know?
Hofer for sure.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
There you go. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, I told you I might be getting a Mayu Canadiens jersey. I didn't realize when he came up he wore 94. Yeah. And I've always wanted to get my number on an NHL jersey, but I'm like, who do I get? Yannick Perreault, Sergei Berezin, Brendan Shanahan. Ooh, that's a good one. So I saw Mayu wore 94 his first season. I thought, ooh, that'd be an interesting jersey to get.
Yeah, it's pretty much a one of a kind. Although I will say, the game that I went to, the Habs game, there were some sweet jerseys. There was a dude rocking a Dobis jersey, and I'm like, man, who would wear a Jakob Dobis jersey to a St. Louis Blues game? Right.
That's cool.
And yeah, I do was a total cowboy too. Like seriously, cowboy boots, mullet. Nice. Yeah. But I totally gave him the nod of approval. Like that's right, boy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. There were several other deep cuts. I think of Jake Evans. Yeah. So I'm That would be a sweet jersey. I would appreciate it very much if you did that.
Yeah, I think I might. We'll see. I got all summer to think about it. Bill, I think that'll do it. Is there anything else you want to add to today's show?
Just that, man, Bill Guerin is going to be the executive of the year. I hate to say it. I mean, if this scoreline holds 3-2 Minnesota, Michael McCarron with a end-to-end rush for the go-ahead goal, if that's the game winner, that is another feather of the cap for Bill Guerin as GM of the year. I mean, I think he's already getting it because of the Quinn Hughes move. But if Michael McCarron is a difference maker in this playoffs, it's like going to be a much harder argument to make against the guy.
I heard that when he scored the goal, he apparently started singing, "I just went and I scored the goal."
I
That's a
had to
good
give you
Let's
the
Go Blues.
opportunity. I
Yep.
had to give you the opportunity.
It's been that is a good callback to a Let's Go Blues Radio episode this week or this year. So yes, we got a couple comments here. Comment of the show. Good night, everyone. One more of these. That's right. Ace says, great job, gentlemen, all year. It's been fun. Man, it's hard to believe this is our last like regular show because
Right.
next week we're kind
Right.
of just gonna have some fun with it. Just kind of see
Yeah.
where it goes. This week this is it, Bill. This is crazy. I mean, this has been 15 years of my life. What, 11 of yours?
Yeah.
Nuts.
Yeah, it's it's been a fun ride. It's not over, just this
Nope.
chapter of it. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun for to see what we can pull out for next week, and it definitely going to be not so much hockey talk as show talk.
Yep.
But yeah, it'll be fun. It's been a fun ride. Surprised you guys didn't kick me off after like 4 seasons. So happy to be here as we're putting this one to bed.
Yep. You know what's crazy is I found out the other day that Doug Stolhand of the Puck Podcast, friend of the show here, we've had him on multiple times, big Ducks guy. He is actually leaving the Puck Podcast at the end of the playoffs. And they started that show, back in 2007, I believe. And so they've been going longer than us. They do the weekly shows as well, including over the summer. And I'm like, man, so if your big NHL show is Puck Podcast and your big Blues show is Let's Go Blues Radio, you're in for quite the change this summer. Things are definitely switching up for you. So, but congratulations to Doug. I mean, geez, almost 20 years doing a show. And then for us, 15 years doing this show. It's been so much fun. I've loved it. And I will say, like, even though we're switching up formats intentionally, I am going to miss doing the live shows weekly. It's just, Bill, I know you agree with me that it's just the work that has to go into it, the commitment of every single night, or I'm sorry, every single Wednesday night. It's gotten to be too much. And we've talked about how, like, sometimes I listen to shows and I hear myself say, like 5 times in one sentence. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? But it's like, well, it's late at night. You started work at 6 a.m., so
right.
Of course
Right.
you're not all there. So for me, it's just, I want to be able to produce a good, well-rounded show where we're not having those issues. But keep in mind, folks, we will still do one of these a month for sure.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
the new show.
Yeah, and we're gonna keep an open, flexible mind and see where it takes us, and who knows if we get to the playoffs, we want to do one of these weekly because we need that emotional outlet, right?
Yes.
There's always that possibility, but yeah, I think for both of us, especially you, because I've been honest about it the whole time. I don't bring a whole lot. Yeah, I bring zero creativity and technical expertise to the show. So you and Kurt always carried the heavy load, and it's quite the burden to carry me too. So and life's just super complicated for everybody right now, right?
Yep.
You with you got the kid, you got the aging parent, and job responsibilities. Yeah, it's a lot to bear. But we still love doing this, and we're gonna keep doing it just in different ways.
Yep. And like I said, I think the thing that keeps me going is with doing this show is still that our audience is awesome. You hear all the time about even podcasts where people are choosing to listen. They send in just rude emails, rude comments, rude messages, and we don't get any of that. Like, our listeners are always so appreciative of us, and it just means the world to me. And it's like, man, I want to keep doing this for them, not even just for me. As much as I love doing it, it's like, I love the fact that our audience is so involved, and we've had, I told you, there's been times where I've gone to the rink and I've seen people like someone wearing a Let's Go Blues Radio jersey, and I'm like, who is that? And I had to like go behind the net to see, and I'm like, oh, that's Yekel. Yeah, like, I forgot he got one, and it's like just seeing that out. It's like, oh man, like people are actually supporting the show when we're not even on the air, like that kind of stuff is it's just incredible. And comment of the show there. You know what? There's your comment of the show right there.
I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes.
He says, hey now, Bill, somebody had to be the face of the show. There you go, Bill. That's you. That's your job.
Man, I appreciate it. And I'm sorry, Jeff. I'm sorry, Kurt.
Comment of the show says, what's the over under on tiers for next episode? I don't know if there'll be tiers because, again, we're not going away. We're just kind of switching things up. So I don't know if there'll be tiers, but
unless
we'll see. Maybe from you, Matt.
Yeah, I tears of laughter. I think we could hit that point next week, depending on how we go with the celebrations. So,
yep. Ace says hockey players don't cry, and Divide by Zero I think agrees. Says I was only a fan, never an actual player. Divide by Zero also adds, I'm really glad I found Let's Go Blues Radio. I agree. Everyone, especially who listens live, we love getting that interaction. And that's the one thing I think we're going to miss with the new show, not getting that every week. But again, I think it's going to be more of an event when we do the live show now. Like, I think it's going to be like, we'll kind of ramp ourselves up. Like, oh, hey, live show this week. Like, hooray, and it's going to like make us excited to do the live shows more. And it'll be more of an event for us. I think that'll be a good thing. One more LGB jersey issue. Oh, yeah, if you want one, man, let me know. Get in touch with me, Joe. You know how to. I'm happy to put an order for you. I think they're, what did we say before? 45 a jersey. If you want to get the blue one that like Bill's wearing right now, that'll be 45. If you want to get the white one, same price. If you want to get them both, we will cut you a deal, and we'll go
300.
We'll go down to 80. Yeah, 300. Yeah. No, we'll go to 80. If you want to get both, we can do $80 for both jerseys. So just let me know, and we'd love to get that for you. But I think that'll do it. Bill, anything to add?
No. I think we've said our piece here tonight. Looking forward to next week's show, and appreciate everybody tuning in, and hopefully everybody will be able to make next week's show. So.
Yeah, keep in mind we also did push it back. Kurt had an issue making a 7:00 show next week, so next Wednesday, 8:00 on April 29th, and that is local time to St. Louis, so Central Daylight Time, 8:00 on Wednesday. So hopefully you can make that. We're gonna have some special appearances from some friends of the show, and as again, like I said, Kurt will be back for that show as well. So it's gonna be a lot of fun, and we'll kind of talk about the show and maybe do kind of like an AMA like we did over the summer. Just kind of talk about things and wrap it up with a good fun time between the three of us. So look forward to having you all. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone, especially those of you who tune in live. It's been a lot of fun. Look forward to doing one more of these with you before we start Hockey Night in St. Louis next season. And Joe Schmo says he's going to hit me up for the tandem. All right. Awesome. Yeah, let's rock those jerseys. I say I'm still going to wear mine on the rink. So I'll be happy to still see those out. And I don't know, maybe we'll make some changes and when Hockey Night in St. Louis gets going, maybe we'll kind of get new logos and maybe even new jerseys. That'll be cool. So we'll see. But thanks to our incredible sponsor, StrikeWithMike.com. That will wrap up episode 29 of season 15 of the original St. Louis Blues Hockey Podcast, Let's Go Blues Radio. Thanks for listening, and thanks to those who participated in the YouTube and Facebook live chats during the live show. Make sure to follow us on socials at LGB Radio, and like, follow, and subscribe to us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. For Kurt Price and Bill Day, I'm Jeff Ponder, and this was the season recap show of Let's Go Blues Radio. Until next time, everyone, one more time, let's go Blues, but I think I'm pulling for the Kings, so I'm going to say let's go Kings.
Let's Let's go
And Habs.
Blues. Thank you.
Yes.
Let's go Habs.
Let's go Habs. I agree with you. How about a Kings-Habs rematch in the final? I'd love that. Let's go Blues.
Let's go Blues.
Jeff and Bill are on TV talking St. Louis Blues hockey. Moving fast, can't catch the beat. Skates on fire, ice on defeat. Jeff and Bill